Hey everybody, Rosematter here, and welcome to part 96 of my Umineko Let's Play. Last episode, we ended up on a little bit of a sour, sad, bummer ending, which was like Angie, she had the book of the single truth, and she seemed to show a little bit of hesitation about opening it. She seemed to think like maybe she'd be betraying her brother by doing that. And it seemed like, there would be that moments like with like Badler and Beato, the ships of goats were coming in to destroy the rest of the island, the Golden Land, and they kind of were about to admit defeat, but then Lambda Delta shows up and they realize like, oh wait, there's this big party that Featherine is holding about the reveal of the single truth, and all the witches are invited. So like maybe Lambda can, because she can go to that fragment, maybe she'll be able to like get Beto and Badler there. They can crash this party and, take Angie back and all this stuff. And it seemed like it was poised for that to happen. But then Angie ended up opening up the book. She was in denial about what she read, and she threw herself off of the building and apparently died. But I mean, like that's not the end of the story. Her spirit apparently is still like floating around. I don't believe it's too late. Hopefully that Badler and Beto can still have their comeback. But it didn't seem like things were gonna go very well from there. So we just have to continue on with the story and I guess see if they can come back from this. So let's get into it. What's the sound I keep hearing? Yes, it must be the sound of rain. In that case, what are those two bright lights coming towards me? I don't know. However, they came at me with a screeching sound. It stopped right in front of me. Oh, it's a car. A blaring noise came at me over and over. So is this right after like Angie jumped off the building? It did say that it says that she survived, but she also died because at the end of one of the games it said that she died in 1998. But then it also said, like, she goes on about, like, oh, I'm the girl that survived jumping off of a building. A blaring noise came at me over and over. Whatever is shining those bright lights is threatening me. It's probably telling me to get out of the way. However, I was incapable of moving even a finger. There was a sound of a car door opening. Car. Door. Apparently, I was lying on asphalt under the pouring rain. Oh, well, if I had known that this, if I known it just went a little bit longer before this part ended, I would have just tacked that on to the last episode, but I don't know these things, unfortunately. Hachijo Ikuko. I saw a figure, apparently the driver, open an umbrella and come towards me. Oh, so this is when Angie first met Hachijo. The figure questioned me. Of course, I couldn't answer it. Wait, a garden? I'm confused. I thought she was like at the building with, like her company's building. The figure crouched down and looked into my face. It was a woman. And a highway. On top of it, I'm so confused. I clenched my chest. I felt I needed to answer somehow and establish communication. So after a lot of effort, I managed to let a short groan escape my lips. And that was how I met Ikuko. Okay. I'm still very confused. So did she just kind of like steal Angie away and keep her in hiding in her house?
CT を見ないことにはわかりませんが、
Okay, so maybe this explains how she became in possession of Ava's, her diary.
ダメージ程度で済んで大いに結構でした。あそこであのまま寝ていればそれどころでは済まなかったでしょうから。
Okay, so all right. So we're getting a little bit more of information here, but so did she know about Angie and that Angie is the Ushuramiya? Because if you know, Hachijo has been writing all of these stories about the Rokonjima disaster. Like, did she take Angie in knowing that she was, like, the last remaining Ushurami and be like, I will keep her here and get information out of her? And keep it off the record so she doesn't want people knowing Angie's there.
こんなにたくさんいただくわけには。
In the end, the doctor took the money and swore to keep quiet about the matter. Eventually, Hachijo returned. I nodded weakly, letting her know it wasn't so bad for now. But where is this place? A room I have absolutely no memory of, in a house I don't remember at all. And first and foremost, here's a woman I've never seen. Hachijo Ikuko. I keep calling her Hachijo Toya, but...
出来のいい兄たちと違い、私はどこかずれた変わり者。いろいろと悪さが過ぎまして、とうとう親たちからも愛想をつかされて追い出され、今はここで実況をさせられています。趣味は推理小説を読むことと、そして書くこと。年は秘密の独身女。心は女子でも、そろそろそれを語るにはおこがましいかなという年頃です。
With the haze my mind was in, it was extremely hard to make out what she was talking about. However, I was able to pick up on the fact that she was trying to talk to me cheerfully.
それで、そなたの名前は?
So, she doesn't know who Angie is? My name. I bet she knows who she is. Especially, like, if she... Like, here's the thing, like, by meeting Angie, did she get interested in the Rokonjima incident? Or did she, like, has she been writing stories about it before meeting Angie? Because, like... I imagine Angie was probably, like, has been in the papers and in media and stuff as, like, the last remaining Ushuramiya. So, here's the thing, is, like, is she just playing coy, like, oh, I know who you are? Or does she genuinely not know? Logically, I know that being a human, I must have a name. And I do have the feeling that I indeed had a name. However, no matter how hard I tried to remember what it was, it just made my head hurt.
何か名前以外に覚えていることは?
Who am I? My head, now we've got the amnesia, of course we do. My head, no, even my heart was a mass of torn flesh, and I couldn't remember a thing, not even who or what I was. But I must remember, I had some kind of purpose, or maybe a mission. In order to remember that, I first have to remember who I am. I hate to say it, but like, knowing the kind of anguish that Angie was dealing with, the whole thing with her family, maybe it's best she doesn't remember. Because as soon as she remembers, then she's just going to be on that quest to die again. Who am I? What is my name? Where was I born? And what was my birthday? I need to remember something, anything. Age.
年? 私の年は秘密です。
18.
私が18歳に見える?
I'm 18.
ああ、そなたの年齢ですか。やれやれ、世辞が過ぎると思いました。
When I asked myself how old I was, the number 18 floated into my mind. To be honest, I didn't really feel 18. My mind felt much younger than that, and my pathetic body felt much older.
なるほど。そなたは18歳というわけだ。 そしてそれ以上のことは何も覚えていないと。
I nodded weakly. I never knew that knowing nothing about yourself could make you feel so powerless.
ではそなたが自分の名を思い出すまで18と書いて
Oh, so that's her. Okay, that's where the Toya came from, and then she started calling herself Hachijo Toya.
八条東也。いかがです？ん？なかなかかっこいいです。自画自賛。
Hachijo. Ikigo gave a satisfied laugh. From then on, I took the name Hachijo Toya. My inability to move my body was apparently due to a traffic accident. On that day, I'd been hit by a car, and Ikuko had picked me up from where I lay on the street. If she hadn't hit the brakes, she probably would have driven straight onwards, thinking she'd run over a dead dog or something. Later on, I perhaps rudely suspected that the one who hit me might have been Ikuko herself. Okay. I like that idea, where she's the one. That's the reason that she asked the doctor to keep it under wraps, because she was the one who hit her and was just like, we're gonna keep this between us. When I saw her completely undamaged front bumper, I gave up on that theory. Okay, I'm so confused by this though. So if this is Ange, so she threw herself off the tower, off the building, and then somehow it doesn't make any sense the more I think about it, because like that's what I was thinking when she's like, oh, is the garden, you're on a highway or something, but there's gardens, but also like if Ange threw herself off that building, then you think that like the people who were looking after her, they wouldn't have just let this random woman take off with her. It seemed more like wherever it was just like kind of an isolated area, because there's no way if like Ange threw herself off that building that the people who are like supposed to keep an eye on her wouldn't have like rushed down there and like got to her before Ikiko did. Hachijo Ikuko lived in a small but lovely mansion on the top of a small hill in a village with a view of the sea. She also owned the hill behind her and was more than capable of enjoying the 4 seasons in privacy. As time passed slowly, my rehabilitation continued and my ability to move improved little by little. However, it seemed I really had suffered some form of brain damage. Finding out who I was looked like it would be a very difficult task. In the beginning, when I couldn't bear not knowing my identity, my head often hurt so much it felt as though it would explode. However, as I slowly accepted the fact I was a new person, with the new name of Hachijo Toya, the headaches became less frequent. The whole time, no memories returned to me except the fact I'd been 18. However, I was unable to remember any more, unable even to be sure that 18 was my true age. Eventually, I stopped trying to remember my former self.
おはよう東也。昨日はひどい嵐でしたが、よく眠れましたか？
I had some trouble falling asleep, so I decided to read your manuscript.
おやおや、どこまで読んでくれたのですか？
I finished it.
これは驚いた。あの量の原稿用紙を一晩で読み切ったというのですか？
I was surprised too. Once I got into it, I finished before I knew it. It was like I was skimming it, or maybe like I was reading each page at a glance.
どうやらそなたは速読の心得があるようですね。して、どうでしたか？感想は。
I liked it a lot. Still, if you don't explain that part about the ocean currents a bit more clearly, it might be a little unfair for the reader. But I thought it was great you had the foreshadowing with the ring right there at the beginning. After I finished it, I had to go back to the beginning and slap myself for being so easily tricked. I think that feeling is the best part of a detective novel. Did I say something to offend you? If I did, I apologize.
いや、なぜ謝るのです。驚いています。そなたの的確な感想は称賛に値するでしょう。そなたはどうやら批評家か、あるいは推理小説作家の才能があるらしい。
Hold up. I just realized, because the whole thing about, like, as they were describing the thing about, like, reading the novel and stuff, and about how, like, they were just so into it and read the whole thing and then, like, giving critique about it, I was thinking it was Ange. Could this be Badler? Could this be Badler? Because 18, right? That's the age Badler was when he was on Oh shit! Because it's and the same thing about like I feel like I'm younger, but my body feels like it's older or something like that. And that could apply to Angie too. You know, the whole thing about like she may have been kind of stuck at like the 6-year-old self, and she feels older because, um, like if they're like lying down and can't move. Holy shit! Or I was like, maybe Shannon too. Was Shannon 18 or was she 19? It's just like either way, somebody who like has a love for detective novels. But I'm just like, but I'm thinking this might be Badler. This might be the miracle. Where like, is this the world where like Badler somehow, I don't know, he survived the explosion, got found by Hachijo, and then or by Ikuko, and was basically like forgot everything except their age, and then he like rehabilitated him. And then like maybe that's the reason that Angie couldn't find Badler, was because like he was going under another name and was like being kept here and nobody knew. Oh my god. Holy cow. Okay. Holy cow. Holy cow. A detective novel writer, a critic from across the fog of oblivion. I seem to remember myself fighting and arguing about mysteries. It's Badler. It's Badler. It's Badler. Or something like that. I mean, it is. It is the way of fighting, which I must have learned in the past, sent a surge of excitement through me. Mystery. Fighting. My head hurt. What? I accepted a painkiller and swallowed it with fresh water brought up from the well. Who am I, really? But no matter how much I thought, I couldn't remember. This is even more tragic if, like, Angie actually did die. Like, if Badler was alive this whole time, just under a different name, and she never found him. There was the miracle where she said I was holding on to the miracle that maybe one of my family members was still alive. Ugh. I have to hope that if this is true, if Badler is alive, and, Angie didn't die and they can be reunited. I was told the frequency of my headaches could be lessened by brain surgery, but also there was no guarantee it would do my memory any good. Ikiko said she would let me have surgery if I wanted it. However, I refused. Even if I can't remember it, the real me is still there, sleeping inside my head. I was scared that the surgery might harm that me somehow. By now, I've gotten used to dealing with the headaches. As long as I don't force myself to remember the past, the headaches don't torment me every day. So bit by bit, I became free of the headaches and got used to my new life as Hachijo Toya. So Hachijo Toya, so that means that like was if this is Badler, Badler was the one who was writing those stories about Rokenjima. Gradually, my interest shifted from myself to Ikiko. So like that's wild that he was the one potentially writing stories about about the situation that happened. And I guess if he had firsthand experience about what happened, he'd know the truth. Hachijo Ikiko, a very strange woman. First off, she was apparently the daughter of a very well-off family, just as she had said. However, she was considered considerably eccentric, and the various mischievous incidents she spoke of had apparently gotten her within an inch of being disowned. As a result, she'd been given this house and had been ordered to live here quietly and alone. She'd never been a particularly social person, so she happily accepted this new state of affairs, living however she pleased with servants to take care of her. I mean, for someone like who, if you don't like to be too social, having this nice house paid for, servants to take care of you, not a bad trade-off. She had no friends. No one ever came to visit. Besides me, the only one she ever talked to was Bern, an old black cat she kept as a pet. Oh, I could see, like, if Badler makes these stories about, like, she's a witch and has, like, a black cat as a familiar, who's actually a witch as well. I didn't know her real age. She didn't seem to be too old to marry yet, but she wasn't likely to meet anyone new leading an isolated life like this. If this is Badler, just the idea of, like, she just kept him there and be like, you're going to be my husband. You can't leave. Despite her insistence, she hadn't met anyone worth the trouble. I felt as though she'd already given up on marriage. Her everyday life changed very little. She'd either read through the many detective novels that were brought to her, or else write detective novels herself. At first, I thought she was some novelist at a private retreat, plugging away at a new book. However, the manuscript she finished just ended up clipped together in a pile, with me as the sole exception. Didn't look like she gave them to anyone else to read. A novelist is someone who writes novels for other people to read. So I figured you could hardly call her a novelist when she kept writing novels no one would ever read. Ikiko-san, why don't you ever show these to anyone?
そなたには見せています。無論、出来のマシなものに限りますが。
Haven't you ever thought of sending one to a publishing company? It's a shame for things to be this way when your works are so interesting.
私の作品などプロには通じぬ。一度送ったことがあるが、さっぱりダメでした。私には分かっています。
She sounds very different from like when she introduced herself as Hachijo Toya, where she's like very confident in her writing abilities.
こんなもの、素人の道楽です。
I don't think amateur is a fitting word for someone who is so well versed in detective novels from all times and places across the world.
大飯ぐらいが良き料理人になれるわけでもない。推理小説を読み散らすことが良き推理小説家であることを保証するわけでもない。そういうことです。だからこんなものは道楽に過ぎません。
Is it really fun to write novels you won't show to anyone?
かつては楽しかった。かつては。
What about now?
そなたに感想を得ることが楽しい。
And that's why she keeps him here. It's like you're a free person to bounce things off of, and you can't leave.
とりあえず一章を書き終えました。お茶を用意させるので、また読んで感想を聞かせてもらえませんか？
Saying this with a smile, Ikiko thrust a pile of manuscript paper at me. When it comes to detective novels, reading and writing are the same. It's boring if you just do it yourself. You only get something really precious when you share the world with someone else. That definitely sounds like Badler. Like I said, could be Shannon too, but it's just the age, like 18. Definitely know that's how old Badler is. Yep, headache.
しっかり、今頭痛薬を。
I'm fine. I'm more interested in this manuscript. I can't wait for the new chapter. The seasons passed. Together with Ikiko, in this town whose name I didn't even know, I spent my days debating detective novels and talking about ideas for new plots. At a glance, they may have appeared to be stale and unproductive days. However, I found satisfaction with my new life as Hachijo Toya. So it's just like, I guess he took his attempt as like, I'm gonna write some stories myself.
かようにして我が黒首と起丹は幕を閉じるのである。亮。
With a dramatic flourish of her fountain pen, Ikiko signified that her manuscript was now complete.
どうであるか。そなたのプロットを生かしつつ、最後に辻子の秘伝をもう少し厚くしてみました。
So I guess maybe like she took on the thing of Hachijo Toya, where it's like maybe he wrote some of the stories, and then she like took on that pen name. I think it's very good. I think The Last Farewell is sad enough to make it moving as a story, not just a reasoning puzzle.
トーヤのプロットがあればこそです。
Maybe that's where she's like, hey, you're like really good at helping me out with this. Why don't you write your own story?
この作品の前には、私がこれまで書き溜めた原稿など、ちり紙の価値さえない。書きながらも、私が世界で一番最初の読者であることの興奮。こんな経験は初めてです。
I just mentioned some ideas. You're the one who turned them into such a fascinating story, Ikuko-san. Before I knew it, she'd roped me in as well, and I too had dipped my toe into the world of detective novel writing. I mean, that sounds pretty perfect for Badler. Apparently, the old me had possessed some knowledge of mysteries and detective novels and the like, and my talent seemed to be of a fairly unorthodox kind. I turned famous mysteries from across the world on their head, always looking to twist those ideas into something new. Well, he learned that from Kyrie, right? Flipping the chessboard. However, a few ideas aren't enough to make a book. No meal is complete if all you can do is chop up vegetables. It was thanks to Ikiko's writing, a skill she'd built up over many years, that my ideas were transformed into a work of fiction. This first work we had authored together, The Strange Tale of Kurokubi Island, had brought out the best of our individual quirks, and, though I hate to brag, it had turned into a masterpiece that we could show to anyone without shame.
もしもし、 書斎にシャンパンを持ってきてください。グラスはあなたの分も。これまでで一番の作品が仕上がりました。お祝いしましょう。
Ikiko called for some champagne over the internal phone line. Joined by the servant who happened to be working that day, and the cat, Bern, we raised our glasses high and toasted our accomplishment. This was certainly a turn of events I was not expecting, but I kind of love it. Ikiko-san, I have an idea if you don't mind.
そなたの話すアイデアならシャワーとトイレ中でなければいつだって耳を貸そう。
Why don't we try submitting our book? I've never read something this interesting before. I'm sure lots of other people will want to read it.
そうでしょうか。過去にもそう思い投稿しましたが。
Maybe she's like, I don't want to put it under my name. I don't want it to be rejected. So then like Toya will be like, well, let's put it under my name. I believe in your talent, Ikiko-san. What about you?
私とてそなたの才能を確信しています。
Then it's decided. To Ikiko-san's big debut.
トーヤのメジャーデビューを祈って。
We clinked our glasses once more. The evening wore on. We must have had way too much to drink. Before I knew it, I must have passed out on the sofa. There was a blanket covering me. Ikiko-san must have put it there. The lights were out in the study, but it wasn't dark. That looked so cozy. The computer monitor was glowing. Outside, it had started to rain. It reminded me of the day Ikiko-san found me and took me in. Because of that, whenever it rains, I find myself wondering who I was, and I usually get headaches. So I wasn't sure whether the pain was because of the rain or because I drank too much. Ikiko-san, turn on the lights. Using a computer in the dark is bad for your eyes.
おや、起こしてしまいましたか。
No, I slept well. Thanks to that, I feel refreshed. I turned on the light and looked out through a gap in the curtains. As I thought, it was the sort of pouring rain that always reminded me of that day, and it probably reminds them of Rokenjima, too. It's raining pretty hard out there. The wind looks pretty strong, too. I hope the rain gutters don't get clogged with leaves again.
先日掃除をさせましたから、当分は大丈夫でしょう。
Her answer sounded a little abstracted. Apparently, her attention was absorbed by the computer. You've been pretty hooked by that computer lately, Ikuko-san. Did you find an interesting article or something? Oh, maybe this is where she's learned about the Rokenjima thing and then gets all obsessed about it.
バカバカしいとは思いつつも、なかなか面白いのです。ほら、
Yep.
ロッケン島事件。
Yep, and then they'll probably get big headache. Pop, 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 pop. Rokenjima.
ロッケン島ミステリーの話は先日したでしょ。これが今ネットでブームになっているのです。それをめぐる議論や考察、中でも義書が実に面白い。義書というのは付近の島に流れ着いた後ろ宮マリアの署名のあるボトルメッセージが
Oh, and that name's probably gonna stir up something too. Only too happy to share her knowledge of the subject, Ikiko continued her explanation at length. However, a huge bell was clanging inside my head. The noise was so great I thought my head would split open. Unable to tell what was the floor and what was the ceiling, I crumpled and clutched at my head. My head hurts. The Rokenjima explosion accident, the many disquieting rumors surrounding it, the scheming of the relatives after Ushiromiya Kinzo's vast wealth and the hidden gold. And the truth. Like, what are the odds? At first I thought this was Ange. But, like, what are the odds that Hachijo just happened to pick up, presumably Badler? I guess, like, maybe he got flung out of the explosion, landed in the water, and managed to wash up on shore or something? Like, it's pretty crazy. And the truth? Ushiromiya Eva, the sole survivor, said nothing. Eventually, the granddaughter, Ushiromiya Ange, who'd escaped harm because she was absent on that day, would inherit everything. Ange. Oh, Ange. Ushiromiya Ange. Please let Ange still be alive. Oh, so that Badler and her can reunite. I am Ushiromiya. Ugh. No good. My head is splitting. An incomprehensible scene pierced my eyelids from the inside like a blade of light. Maybe that's why he wrote the stories, was like trying to piece together the truth, like from little bits and pieces, was trying to like get to the truth. Just what am I looking at? Who are these people calling to me, but not by the name Toya? Who am I? Who are these people? What is this memory? Help me, Ikuko. Someone else's memory is hurting me. My head is splitting. I can hear the sorrowful sound of wind, and that must be rain. Who am I again? I am Ushiromiya.
Ange! Ange!
お願いよ
Okay.
返事をして
Okay, so this is back to voices. Voices calling to me. Dad and Mom. It can't be them. In 1986, on Rokenjima, Mom and Dad. Wait, this was this Angie? I was like, this Battler, but now they're saying Angie? Wait.
エンジェしっかりしろ
Oh shit.
お父さんの声が聞こえるか
Wait a minute.
お願いだから返事をして返事
Mom, Dad. I'll say it out loud. Mom, Dad.
エンジェエンジェよかった
What is happening? So wait, is this the world where like they survived, she survived? I could feel my body being lifted up firmly and hugged roughly. Mom and Dad were hugging me. My eyelids had been open for a while now. I'm so... What? What? I could feel the light slowly returning to my eyes. Just like your eyes get used to the dark. My eyes got used to the light, and bit by bit, the scene around me came into view. What is happening? However, it was an unusual sight, which seemed to be very far away. I was like, I guess, now that I think about it, maybe that could potentially be Angie with Toya, or Angie could be Toya, because, like, you know, Battler wasn't the only one who learned how to fight witches and do reasoning and stuff, but it was the whole thing about, like, being really into detective novels. I don't think Angie was really into that stuff, at least she didn't seem to be. However, it was an unusual sight, which seemed to be very far away. I'm so confused right now. My body was being hugged by Mom and Dad. Dad was sniffling, his face covered with tears. There were tears in Mom's eyes, too, as she hugged me tight. It was so strong that it hurt a bit. I was the bad kid, who wasn't obedient, who always had an excuse, and who always tried to do the opposite of what her parents said. That was why they were holding me tight, to make sure I didn't head down the wrong path. As my eyes adjusted, I could see other people besides my parents. Everyone was there. George Oni-chan, Jessica Oni-chan, Maria Oni-chan. My uncles and aunts. Even Sakataro. And then there was the witch Vergalia and Ronave and... Battler. Or her. I was like waiting for Battler to be the last one she saw.
そなたは幸運だった偶然にも虚無の海の波間を漂うそなたを見つけたのだ
Okay.
ひどい姿であったぞそなた自身がその姿を思い出すまでに随分と時間をかけた
So after, because they did say like she's floating away in like in space for a bit. I was like, maybe they can still save her.
ベアトリーチェじゃあここは
黄金鏡だここでお父さんたちはみんなお前が帰ってくるのを待ってたんだぞ
絶対にあなたは帰ってくると
Did I come home because I was supposed to? Didn't I return to the form I was meant to have? And then...
いやお前は帰ってきたんだ
そうよあなたが私たちのところへ帰りたいと願ったからここへ帰ってこられたのよお父さんお母さん私は今は何も言わなくていいわ大変な冒険をしてきたわねあなたは一人ぼっちで大変な冒険をしてきたわ
これで分かっただろもう忘れないだろ
I understand, Dad.
ここが お前の帰るべきところだってことだ。
When I gave that answer, Mom and Dad hugged me again. Hot tears fell into my face. They were Mom and Dad's tears.
無事でとはとても言えない姿だったけれど、よかったわ。帰ってきて。エヴァ、おばさん、私のことをいくらでも憎だから、お父さんとお母さんに100万回キスをしてあげて、あなたのことをいつも思っているみんなにも。
Hopefully she'll give Ava a hug too. Hopefully. I want to believe that maybe she forgave her too.
エヴァ、おばさん、あなたのもう一人のお母さんに。
Your other mother, ah. Mom gave me a push from behind, and I stumbled forwards. Towards my other mother. Man, the last episode was like such a bummer, and this is like, oh, so sweet. This is so sweet.
エヴァ、
Aw.
お母さん、エンジェちゃん。あの日、私がそう呼べていれば、私は何も謝ることがなかったかもしれない。私たちは新しい世界を二人で生み出せたかもしれない。もういいのよ。エンジェちゃんは帰ってきてくれたわ。だからもう何も言わなくていいのよ。お母さん、お母さん。
Aw.
おかえり、エンジェちゃん。あなたは私の可愛い娘。
What if that was like another twister at the end? It's like, Angie is actually Ava's real daughter, because there's the whole thing like Badler is actually, you know, Kyrie's son. Speaking of Badler, where is Badler? Badler, everyone here is here except for him.
あなたはいつまでも、そして最後まで私の一番の味方だった。
I'm glad she finally had that realization and she doesn't hate Ava anymore and she can forgive her. Two of them hugged each other quietly, burying their faces in the other's shoulders and sobbing. The truth wasn't worth anything at all. In the first place, the truth is always in the past. The point of the future isn't to learn what happened in the past. What really matters is whether I truly live and prosper in the truth that is the now. How can there be any truth in a life not truly lived? Back when I only ever tried to see the truth of the past, I was nothing more than a ghost trapped in the past. Since that time, I haven't lived a single day. Now I truly understand. This is what real truth is.
私は
I don't think Bern's gonna be too happy about that.
そしてどれほどみんなに愛されていたかを思い出したわ。
Because I was young and selfish, I didn't even remember until now. The kind grandpa who always spoiled me. The entertaining aunts and uncles. All the kind and gentle servants. It was always warm. And yet, because I was young and cruel, I never even tried to retain any of those memories. Everyone was distorted by my irresponsible imagination, and I completely forgot how things were. Now I can remember clearly, and I understand. It's true that the Halloween quiz party itself was an illusion. We never did anything like that. But there were all kinds of other fun things we did do when the relatives gathered. Things that were no more or less fun than that party. That's what Badler was trying to show her. And for the first time since the start of the game, I went up to each and every one of them to greet them, thank them, and apologize. To thank Grandpa for always pampering me. To thank my aunts and uncles. To thank the cousins for always playing with me, even though I was so selfish. And to thank the creatures of fantasy and apologize to them. I think I said something horrible to Sakataro once in the past. And to Maria Oni-chan too.
マリアお姉ちゃんは本当の魔女だったんだわ。マリアは最初から魔女だよ。エンジェだって一度はその領域に近づけたのにね。本当の意味で分かってなんかいなかった。かわいそうなマリアお姉ちゃんのそんな風にしか見ていなかった。だから私には 幸せのかけらが拾えない、見つけられない。かつてお姉ちゃんは私にそう言ったわ。仕方ないよ。宇宙は二人で作らないと生み出せない。マリアにはベアトがいたけれど、エンジェは一人ぼっちだった。いいえ、もしエヴァおばさんをお母さんと呼べていたら、私は二人だったわ。きっとマリアお姉ちゃんと同じ魔法で、私は新しい世界を生み出せたわ。
すべてわらわのせいだ。わらわが面白半分に投じたボトルメッセージが、そなたの未来に歪みを生み、そなたを蝕んだ。わらわにもその責任がある。
まったくね。
Yeah, she's like, fuck you, Beto. All your fault. At least we have a common person we can blame it on.
そのせいで、あんたの真似をした偽書を書く連中が現れて、どんどんおかしな話が膨らんでいった。
However, the message bottles thrown into the sea by Beto did not name a specific person as the culprit. One of the forgers wrote a plausible forgery that had Ushiromio Eva as the culprit, which spread like wildfire. I should have known better than anyone that it couldn't possibly be true, but even I accepted it in the end.
ベアトのせいじゃないわ。周りの誰がどんな邪推を重ねようとも、私の中の真実はたった一つのはずだった。なのに安易に私はみんなの温かな思い出を手放し、心を彼らに明け渡してしまった。
いやいや、そもそもわらわがボトルメッセージなど投じなければ、未来の六軒島はおかしな妄想の種にされることもなかったのだ。すべてはわらわのせいだ。
そうね、それもそうだわ。やっぱりあんたのせいだわ。
素直にそう言われるとカチンとくるぞ。わらわのせいだけでなく、やはりそなたも悪いのだ。
そうね、あんたも悪いし、私も悪いわ。でもお互い罵り合うのも馬鹿らしい。だって私は未来の魔女、あなたは過去の魔女。未来に生きる私はその魔法で未来を築くべきなのよ。私たちは共に何らかの責任を負うけれど、それを責める資格はどちらにもないわ。エンジェならマリアージュ・ソルシエールの教えをきっと理解してくれると思ってたよ。そうね、私はマリアージュ・ソルシエールの最後の一人としてお姉ちゃんの魔法を伝える義務があるわ。マリアの魔法はみんなを幸せにする魔法なの。
うん、清らかなる魔法も邪悪なる魔法も思いのままよ。
本当ね、魔法は心の持ち方で全く違う姿に変わる。正しい導きがなければ正しい魔法は使えないわ。そして正しい魔法は人を幸福に導くわ。
素晴らしいことです。人を幸せにすることこそが魔女が魔法を振るう唯一の理由なのです。その教えをようやく我らが無限の魔女の系譜の最後の魔女に伝えることができて、私は嬉しいですよ。
This is all very sweet, but like I want to know what happened in the real world. I want to go back to Ikuko and who I'm assuming I'm still going back and forth. I'm like, it makes sense for it to be Badler and not Ange. That like thing at the end where all of a sudden like that thing like I am Ushiromia and then it flashed to like Ange opening her eyes. I'm like, wait, what? So I want to believe it's Badler though, because I want to believe he's alive.
悪かったな。全然伝えてなくてよ。
未来の魔女エンジェ・ベアトリーチェ・マリアージュ・ソルシエールは今こそあなたの著名を解く。ウリュー、エンジェはきっと帰ってきてくれるって信じてたよ。 おめでとうございます、エンジ様。
あなたたちと共に旅をした日に、私は一度は理解をしたつもりでいたのに。ごめんね、本当にごめんね。
魔女は二人でなければ宇宙を生み出せぬ。未来のそなたは一人だが、本当に大丈夫か？
ええ、大丈夫。私はもう一人じゃないもの。私は生きるわ。
Okay, so please, hopefully she is alive, and this is the universe where she takes this information and she does live a happy life, but also maybe hopefully meets, you know, a battler, potentially battler, Hachijo Toya, whatever.
みんなと一緒に、そして未来に生きる。マリアージュ・ソルシエルの魔法を伝えるために生き抜くことを誓うわ。マリアお姉ちゃんの魔法は私でさえ救ってくれたもの。魔法を必要としている人たちはもっと大勢いる。それを正しく伝え、一人でも多くの人々を救うことがマリアージュ・ソルシエルの最後の魔女の私の使命なんだわ。
それは実現できそうか？
もちろんよ。そのための力だってあるわ。私の先代様エヴァ・ベアトリーチェがたっぷりと築き上げてくれた黄金の魔法があるもの。私はそれを全て継承しているわ。
私がもう少し健康で長生きできてたら全部使い切っちゃうつもりだったんだけどね。
As Angie laughed, tears poured from her eyes again. Everyone surrounded Angie with their kind, warm smiles. Still wondering where Badler is. Maybe... Hey! There he is. Badler stood alone in the rose garden maze, letting the rain quietly fall on him. After searching for some time, Angie found him.
お兄ちゃん。
Angie, who was feeling guilty, sensed anger in her brother's expression, so she thought he was going to hit her. Well, he would never. She shut her eyes tight. However, her brother touched her softly. He patted her head gently.
真実なんて大したもんじゃなかっただろ。
うん。お兄ちゃんはこんなにも温かな世界でずっと私の帰りを待っててくれたのに、私だけがずっと背を向けていたから。
お前は真実を知ってしまった。
うん。
だから
Aw,
誰かが
no!
生きて帰ってくるかもしれないっていう奇跡や希望は
Maybe that world with
もうついえちまった。
Hachijo Toya, maybe that is the miracle world where someone did survive, but then he's just saying that it's just like no one survived though.
でもお前にはもう
I'm feeling such whiplash right
未来
now.
を生きるための新しい希望や使命があるな。
お兄ちゃんがその温かな希望を守ってくれてた。それを私が自ら開いて逃がしてしまった。パンドラの箱より始末が悪いわ。私は知る必要のない真実も、そして希望までもすべて逃がしてしまって、すべて。
いいさ、開けちまったなら仕方ねえさ。それで空っぽなら後腐れがなくていいじゃねえか。下手な希望はかえってトゲになることもあるしな。
Badler laughed heartily. Then, with the same smile on his face, he told her.
俺たちはもう死んでる。ひょっとしたら生きてるかもしれないって希望が
I feel like I had my hopes dashed right there too. But I mean, that whole thing, like that wasn't there for no reason. This whole thing with Ikuko and Hachijo Toya, the Ushiramiya, you know, like, I'm still holding out some hope.
それはもうこれで綺麗さっぱり。
It's like he's telling me, hey, stop that. And I'm like, no, I refuse. I refuse to accept it.
分かってる。これからの私は新しい人生に踏み出すわ。
ベアとは六軒島を猫箱に閉ざし、次の魔女のエヴァおばさんはその猫箱の蓋を生涯守った。その次の魔女のお前はその蓋を開けちまったがだからってなんだってんだ。過去の真実なんてどうでもいいことじゃねえか。
ええ、私はこれから真に生きる。そして自分だけの真実を結実するわ。
頑張れよ、マリアージュ・ソルシエールの最後の魔女。マリアの魔導書を読んだぜ。あれはとてもいいことを書いた素晴らしい本だ。聖書だって翻訳がいる。ならマリアの魔導書にだって翻訳がいるだろう。お前がそれを翻訳するんだ。そしてかつてのお前と同じ境遇の子供たちに伝えてやれ。それがお前の新しき未来の魔女の使命だ。俺はいない。でもお前の後ろにいつだっていて。
Because it's implying that Angie's might be some sort of like a writer or something. Like she has to translate the book and teach it to children. So maybe she becomes like a children's author who like writes about grief and how to overcome grief, or like becomes a fantasy writer herself. So maybe she does become an author.
知ってるわ。お兄ちゃんだけじゃないわ。みんなも一緒よ。
俺もみんなもずっとずっと永遠にお前を愛してる。それを忘れるな。
忘れないわ。絶対。永遠に。
Angie leapt into Balor's chest and sobbed. Humans are sad creatures who can learn but not unlearn. She had already learned. It was a cruel, terrifying, merciless thing, capable of destroying even the miracle called hope. However, there was still one tiny fragment left gripped in her hand. Her family's love. If Angie could just remember that love and hold on to it tightly, then she could surely live on, right? Without love, it cannot be seen. She could stop herself from taking that single step into nothingness.
それに六軒島の猫箱はまだ完全に開かれたわけじゃない。お前が中身を覗いちまっただけの話だ。だからお前が自ら蓋となれ。そして今度はお前が猫箱の中のみんなを守るんだ。
Definitely goes against what's happening with this whole thing about the single truth being unveiled to the world. Maybe she has to stop that, but I'm just like still wondering in that world with like with Hachijo, Ikuko, or Toya or whatever, where like she's there to unveil the truth of it. Like, is Angie dead in that world? Was she the one who was going to unveil it, and now she has to try and stop it?
俺や親父やキリエさん、いとこのみんなやおじさんたちおばさんたち、じいさまや使用人のみんな、幻想の住人のみんなをな。
今度は私がみんなを守らなきゃ。
Maybe she's gonna be... Oh, maybe Angie will be the one to go back into the witch's world. Maybe she's allowed to go there because she is a witch, right? She's Ange Beatrice, so maybe she can go and she's like, I'm gonna stop Bern and Featherine and all of them from unveiling that truth. Yes, that is what's gonna happen. Angie! Yes. On the other side of a rose bush came the sound of popcorn being eaten. It was Lambda Delta.
あんたも知ってると思うけど、ベルはもうじき
Yep.
未知なる真実の書を
Please
パ
let
ンで大公開するわ。
Please let Battler and Beato be able to go, the three of them together, one last time.
会場には天国から地獄から異界か
Or
ら
maybe
別
it's
世界から
maybe it's
あら
only
ゆる
something
世
Angie
界
can
の面
do.
々が集まってる。そこで中身を公表されたらもう何もかも手遅れよ。
私行くわ。ベルンカステルにあの鍵を渡してしまった。私の責任だわ。私が行って取り返してくる。
図書の都にか。しかし、入る
He says there's a way for us to get in. They're gonna go together.
あそこには結界があるんだ。
Lambda.
あいつがこれをくれたの。
Or Angie will be the
こ
one
れ
to
が
get
あ
them
れば
in.
自由に出入りできるって。バカなやつね。私を捨てるとき回収を忘れたんだわ。
Angie fished through her pocket, and there was jingling sound. It was a bell with a blue ribbon tied to it.
それよ、招待状と引き換えに渡される図書の都の臨時入館証。
Oh, I'm so happy that we're gonna get this final battle after all. I was thinking, like, it's not gonna happen. It's too late.
それがあればとりあえず一人は図書の都に乗り込めるわね。まあかけらの海を誰かが送ってくれればの話だけど。
ラムダデルタ、私を図書の都に連れてって。
エンジェ。
それが私の責任の取り方だわ。私が一なる真実の書の公開を食い止める。
本気で言ってんの？あそこは化け物中の化け物の服までよ。ベルンの庇護を失ったあんたなんてハイカのハムシ扱い。ベチッと叩いて潰され
And
てお
that's,
しまい
I
よ。
bet Battler's gonna go with her. Maybe Beato too? He's gonna go, of course. The bell was stolen from Angie's hands.
ラムダデルタ、そこには俺が行こう。
Oh,
お
Battler!
前は俺を送ってくれるだけでいい。どうせ俺は猫箱の中にしか存在できない。だが、エンジェは未来に生きなくちゃならない。そしてお前だって未来ある存在だ。だから俺が行く。俺には何も失うものなんてないんだからな。
いいえ、これは私の責任。そして私のけじめ。
He's gonna be like, if you die out there, everything that we did was for nothing. So, no.
私が自らの手でやらなきゃ未来は何も変わらない。そして未来の猫箱を何も救えない。
Angie tried to snatch the bell from Battler's hand, but Battler had no intention of giving it up. The two of them were grimly serious, but from the sidelines it just looked like an ordinary squabble between two close siblings. Lambda Delta watched this conversation and shrugged. She just had to take either one of them to the City of Books. She wouldn't have to make any enemies, and there was no risk to her. All she cared about was which one would make the story more interesting. Nothing else. But then she finally noticed.
ストップ。
お？
あんたたち、ちょっとストップ、ストップ。
何よ、後にしてよ。
今、兄弟で大切な話をしてるんだ。
まずあんたたち、その組み合ってる手を解きなさい。鈴はバトラが持ってるのね。バトラ、跳ねてみて。
跳ねるこうか。
Jingle jingle.
次、エンジェ、跳ねてみて。
なんで私まで。
Jingle jingle.
どうして。
If Battler was holding the bell, where did that sound come from? Angie hurriedly searched through her pockets. When she did, another blue-ribboned bell came out of a different pocket than the first one. Yeah, they can go together, brother and sister, together to take down Bern and Featherine and all of them. Hee hee.
そんな、どうして2つ。私は1つしかもらわなかったわよ。
どうしてかなんか知らないわ。でもとにかくあんたは図書の都に入れる鈴を2つ持っている。よってあんたたちの仲睦まじいやりとりをこれ以上見ている必要がなくなったわけ。
The pair of them gripped their bells and looked at each other.
最初から今回のゲームはあんたたち2人のものだわ。ただ対決するプレイヤーには若干の変更があったみたいね。あんたたち2人が競い合うゲームじゃない。猫箱をめぐって蓋を閉ざそうとするバトラとエンジェとそれを開こうと
Ooh,
す
are we
る
gonna
ベ
get
ル
a...
ンとの戦いだわ。
Because I know that Erika is coming to the Golden Land, so maybe they have to take on Erika first, or maybe they have to battle, like, Battler and Angie versus Bern and Erika.
エンジェはベルン側からバトラ側にチームを変更した。それだけの話。
ラムダデルタ、俺たちを図書の都へ連れて行ってくれ。
分かってるわよね。連れてくだけよ。あとは今度こそ感激者に徹するからね。あんたたちが 図書の都で何をどう戦ってどうベルンにコテンパンにされるかをじっくりたっぷり間近で感激してるだけだからね。
ラムダデルタ、ありがとう。
Okay. Well, this is exciting. I love this. I love where Angie was fighting so hard, thinking that, like, she was fighting against her brother, but now has realized, like, they're a team. Together. Stronger together. And I guess we're gonna have, like, Cannon, Shannon, maybe Beatrice defending the Golden Land. Shannon and Cannon stood guard in front of the door to the Golden Land, although Badler did tell them, like, as soon as they show up, go inside, you guys can't fight them. They glared quietly and fearlessly at the eerie fleet of ships across the horizon. Shannon slowly lifted her hands. Cannon also raised his right hand, and a blade that trailed red appeared there.
そこで止まってください。それ以上の接近を拒否します。
それ以上近寄れば切る。
They could see a single dinghy leave the fleet and approach them. They couldn't tell if it was a messenger or the first wave. Shannon and Cannon watched it cautiously. Erika with her cute little hat. Oh my goodness, adorable. It's hard to take her seriously. At the head of that dinghy, rowed by goats, stood Erika. Where has she gotten that headgear from? It's got a little kitty cat, too. Maybe she was trying to act the part of the fleet's leader. The object on top of Erika's head, as she glared at them with an audacious smile, appeared to be a pirate hat.
最後通帳に参りました。交渉余地のあるものです。開門してください。
Shannon and Cannon looked at each other. Erika was the one offering this deal. It wasn't likely to be anything agreeable. However, they turned her away. The attack would probably begin at once. Since they were in a firmly inferior position, they wanted to buy time by any means if they could. At Shannon's nod, Cannon erased his sword. The Golden Land was filled with a hard downpour, accompanied by occasional thunder. Realizing that this weather spoke for their emotions, Erika smiled even more boldly. At the center of the Golden Land was the arbor surrounded by the Golden Rose Garden. A large number of humans and fantasy creatures were there, arguing about something. Even without asking, it was easy to guess the nature of the debates by their anguished expressions. After all, in this life-or-death situation, they didn't have many options they could take. In the direction Erika was being led, with her goat guards alongside her, Beato stood waiting, accompanied by the Chester sisters' troops. Noticing Beato, Erika gave a bow that at least appeared graceful. Beato followed suit and gave the sort of graceful bow that was rarely seen from her.
黄金鏡の主、無限と黄金の魔女、ベアトリーチェである。名乗られよ。
As though hinting she was more than ready to go through with this farce, Beato introduced herself boldly and requested that Erika do the same.
尊厳なる感激と戯曲と傍観の魔女により厳選されし名誉ある図書の都より派遣されてまいりました。私は図書に名誉と保護を与えし司書の艦隊司令官にして真実の魔女フルドエリカと申します。どうぞお見知りおきを。
要件を聞こうぜ。
お喜びください。我ら図書に名誉と保護を与えし司書の艦隊はあなた方に名誉ある朗報をもって参上しました。一つ、図書の都は無限の魔女ベアトリーチェによって生み出されたゲーム版を名誉ある厳選されたる図書に認定されましたことを報告いたします。
ほう、それは名誉なことである。
このゲーム版は非常に興味深くかつ独創的で研究価値の高いものです。すべての市民に公開される価値のあるものです。よって図書の都は我らにこのゲーム版に永遠の名誉と保護を与えることを命ぜられました。
Oh, she's saying, like, we won't destroy the Golden Lands if you surrender.
くどいし長い。とっとと本題を言え。
No, Beto, you want it to be long and boring. You're trying to buy time, aren't you? Until Badler and Angie can defeat Bern.
本ゲーム版のすべてを名誉ある図書の都に譲渡することを要求します。これは本ゲーム版とその駒にとって最高の名誉と保護です。
嫌だと言ったら、
すべての市民に共有されるべき名誉文化を私的独占する罪で告発されます。我々はあなたに対し、すべての市民の権利と利益を保護するため攻撃を開始することを通告します。
その攻撃で市民の共有財産が破壊されるのは構わぬのか。
名誉図書保護法の規定により、名誉文化私的独占を犯す犯罪者がこれを盾に籠城を試みる場合、執行官隊は大法院の許可を持って保護より逮捕を優先することが許されます。もちろんすでに大法院の許可状はこちらにございます。
ついでにその逮捕は生死を問わぬと書いてありそうだな。
おや、よくこんな小さい文字が読めますね。では茶番は以上です。ぶっちゃけどうします？
そなたの要求を飲むとどのような利点があるというのか。
お互い無駄な仕事をしなくて済みます。そしてあなたの勇敢にして名誉ある行為は図書の都にて誉れ高く終章に記されるでしょう。分かってますよね。あなたは絶対勝てません。これは戦いでさえない。井戸の底で上を見上げるあなたに石をぶつけるだけの一方的なものなのですから。
わらわに選べるのは図書館の魔女たちがわらわの最後をいかに記すかだけという。
I wonder if Erika's going to notice that Angie and Badler aren't around and be like, well, I guess they assumed that Angie died, so there's understandable that Angie wouldn't be here, but no Badler. Strange.
あとはあなた次第です。もしあなたがこのゲーム版を愛おしく思うなら、幸福駒たちは末永く大勢の市民に愛され、その役目を永遠に続けることができるでしょう。
つまりは好き放題に生み出した惨劇を永遠に繰り返すということか。
あんたがしてきたことと何か違いが？
ないな。以上か。ならばわらわの答えを聞かせよう。
どうぞ。
I decline. Erika tensed slightly. After all, this was the great Lady Beatrice she was dealing with. She might shout, "Here is my answer," dramatically, and do something crazy. They say a cornered rat is the most dangerous, or maybe she'll agree to it just to kind of, throw them off. Furthermore, Erika had intel telling her the great Lady Lambda Witch of the Senate, had been spending her time inside the Golden Land, though only as a theater-goer. Erika needed to carry out this noble task that her master had assigned her, and she had to carry it out perfectly. She was honest. She wanted to make Beato raise a white flag, even by trickery if necessary. So even though this was a farce, she held back from giving any unneeded provocation. She gulped and tried to size Beato up. And then, with a pathetic expression on her face, Beato let out a sigh.
素直に言う。わらわはもう疲れた。
それはどういう意味です？
わらわのゲームはバトラとの戦いを終えた時点ですでにその目的を終え
Bet
ている。
Erika wasn't expecting that answer. She's gonna be like, she's got something up her sleeve. This isn't like Beatrice to just be like, meh, whatever, I'm done.
なのにその後の都合で何度もゲームが繰り返されたのだ。わらわは正直もう疲れている。
正直、全く想像していないお返事でした。では、降伏なさると？本気で？
ぶっちゃけるとどっちでもよい。降伏でもそなたらに討ち取られるのでもどっちでもよい。わらわは誰の手であっても構わぬから、このゲーム版とその物語が幕を下ろすことを望んでいる。
Of course, that was a lie. She knew she couldn't win, even if she fought. For now, their best option was to play for time. They would fix Erika's attention to this spot, and during that time, Battler and the others would steal the key from Berncastel while she was completely off her guard. Ah! Once they had the key, they'd return to the Golden Land, use that key to let Ange open the door to the future, and see her off. That was their goal. Everything after that would be inside the cat box. Ange would live on into the future with hope. No one would know whether Beato and the others were alive or dead. That was enough. The only strategy Beato and the others could use to achieve this was to buy time.
降伏してくれるなら拍子抜けではありますが、私も手間が省けて助かります。
Just give Erika a locked room puzzle. That'll keep her attention for a bit.
ところがその
She's like, I'll surrender without issue if you can solve
そうきれいにはいかんのだ
my locked room.
そのだなここだけの話なのだがそなたも存じておろうが大ラムダデルタ教がご滞在されている今日は我らにドラマチックなクライマックスを提供せよとだなそのわがままを申されている
それはひどいわがままですね。10万の兵力を要する我が艦隊にすでに解き終えたパズルみたいな絞りかすのあんたたちがほんの数十人でどう抵抗をさせようというのです。
そうなのだそうなのだ戦力差は圧倒的戦いにさえならぬと我らは言っておるのだがなそのラムダデルタ教が彼女の友人たちを集めて共闘するから徹底抗戦せよと言って聞かぬのだ
ラムダデルタ教のご友人
Oh, is Erika like, is she suspecting something or is she like, wait, what? Unlike Berncastel, who kept to herself, Lambda Delta had many friends. Her friends and patrons were all formidable, including monsters that had become legends in their own lifetimes and territory lords commanding vast influence over their respective domains. In all seriousness, her fan club, as she so called it, had enough size and influence that no one would have been overly surprised if it had suddenly declared itself an independent nation right in the middle of the Sea of Fragments.
困ったことにラムダデルタ教はやる気満々でなさっきから勝手に各地に電話を繰り返し友人知人を呼びつけておるのだ
Erika's gonna be like, where is she right now, by the way? Of course, this was all a lie. Lambda Delta had turned into a small candy comet and was now shooting toward the City of Books with Battler and Ange in tow. So to make sure Lambda Delta's and Battler's absences were not noticed, everyone was crowded around the arbor pretending to argue furiously with each other. Ah, okay, so that explains how Erika hasn't noticed yet.
バトラ様、ご決断を。我ら煉獄の七姉妹、いつでも死ぬ覚悟はできております。
玉砕には反対だ。死んで咲く果実などありはせんよ。
あなたは腰抜けです。
What if Erika wants to talk to Battler? How are they gonna get around that?
生きて旅衆の恥ずかしめを受けるなど考えられません。
生きてこそチャンスを待てることもあります。
そうですとも短期は損期とも申します。
マトラ、男ならバシッと決めろい。大ラムダデルタ様が力を貸してくれるってんだろ。
どうかや、男には決断の時があるんやで。
決断は選んだ内容よりも選んだ時を称賛されることもござい
I
ま
don't
す。
know, it seems a little flimsy. I feel like it would just take Erika exploring a little bit more into this before the whole facade to fall apart.
降伏すれば乱暴はしないかも。そんなことあるわけないわよ。あんたそれでもオスラよ。牙はどこに行ったのよ。
どうせ死ぬなら豚としてでなく狼として死にたい。
あんたバカ。そういうのを犬死にって言うのよ。
ラムダデルタさんの呼び寄せる援軍の力次第ですな。
ラムダデルタさん本当にあなたのお友達はあいつらに勝てるだけの力があるの
賭けね。降伏して死ぬか賭けに出て敗れて死ぬか。 あら、なら賭けに出た方が生き残れる可能性は高いってことになるわ。
大本院は名誉ある幸福には慈悲を与えるでしょう。
バックは元老院だろう。どうせなんだかんだ言って全員断頭台に決まったら。
とにかく皆さん冷静に頭を冷やしましょう。私は事を荒立てることには反対です。
君こそ冷静になるべきじゃないかい。相互確証破壊という戦略もある。仮に勝てないにせよ、こちらもただで済ます気はないという戦略は相手への抑止になるよ。
つまりよ、そっちがやる気ならこっちもただじゃ死なねえぜってことだぜ。
ラムダデルタの友達はみんなすごいよ。みんなすごい伝説と武勇伝を持つすっごい魔女や怪物、悪魔や神様がいっぱいなんだから。あんなお船が星と同じ数を並べていたって一息で吹き飛ばしてしまうよ。
大丈夫でしょうか、私たちの演技。
Goda, shut up. Dude.
問題ない。お前ももっと語気を強めて喋るのだ。無礼講に行け。腰抜けどもめ、最後に一花咲かせてやろうという気概はないのか。
ちょっとお待ちください。戦いを望まぬ者がいることもお忘れなく。私は降参が良いかと思います。
何？ゴーダこの敗北主義じゃんめ。
That's the Kenzo I'm used to hearing. Goda, don't yell that out, my dude. Get him out of here.
さあ、議論も盛り上がってきたね。
私たちは幸福かしら、当選かしら、どうなのかしら。それは誰にもわからない。
個人的にはわらわは幸福を望んでいる。どうせ役目を終えるのなら、せめて自分が生み出したこのゲーム版はそのままに保存されることを望む。もうこれ以上わらわのゲーム版をラムダデルタ教に好き放題されるのはごめんなのでな。
こちらこそごめんです。あんたとは戦いに来ましたが、ラムダデルタ教のご友人は私の相手の度を超えます。
Secretly, Erika was getting worried at these complicated developments, and she was relieved she hadn't pushed too hard earlier on. She wanted to curry favor with Beato and end this with a bloodless takeover. Even the great Lady Lambda Delta probably wouldn't seriously think of picking a fight with the Senate. Her motive was probably something more trivial, a simple desire to watch the game board's final fireworks from a front row seat. However, if she really did have some fireworks of her own prepared, it was at least possible this could turn into a ruckus that Erika would have no chance of quelling. Beato saw all this going on in Erika's mind, so she continued to act with an even more pathetic expression on her face. Even among witches, her acting ability was top-notch.
そなたもどうか力を貸してはくれぬか。わらわのゲーム版が美しい姿のまま保存されるように。やはりあの賑やかな御人を客人として招いたのは失敗だった。とほほほ。
わかりました。私もことを荒立てずに済むならそうしたいです。で、私はどのような協力をすれば？
わらわたちはさっきから幸福か公戦か議論を続けている。わらわもそれに戻り幸福を主張し、ラムダデルタ教にこのゲーム版を壊してしまうような大騒ぎはやめてほしいと頼むつもりだ。
それは助かります。で、どうしろと？
わらわたちに議論の時間を保証してほしい。何しろそなたらの船がぐるりと取り囲み威圧しているのだからな。いつ攻撃されるかもわからぬと緊張感に耐えかねて皆破れかぶれになっておるのだ。だからそなたが我らに議論の時間を保証してくれれば
Pretty smart, actually. At first I was like, I don't know, it seems a little shaky of a plan, but...
ラムダデルタ卿を説得できる十分な時間を得られる。
It kind of falls apart if Erika is ever like, can I talk to her in person, or Badler? Can I maybe, you know, use my influence or like my gift of gab to see what I can do? Hopefully Erika buys it.
いいでしょう。
All right.
時間はいかほど必要です？
できれば気前よく無制限とはいかぬか。期限があれば結局は残り時間が少なくなるとまたみんな破れかぶれになり過激な意見に統一されてしまう。
そりゃそうですね。導火線で大事なのは火がついているかいないかです。その議論の前に導火線の長さなどどうでもいいことでしょうから。
ではしばし時間をもらえるか。
わかりました。議論の時間を保証します。ただし無期限ではありません。私はここで皆さんの議論を聞きながら待たせてもらいます。
It's gonna be suspicious if Erika doesn't hear Lambda Delta at all, or Badler.
それがそのだな。
Oh my gosh, Beto, you're pushing it, girl.
やはりみんな緊張してしまって。
私はすでに譲歩をしました。今度はあなたが私に譲歩をする番ではありませんか？
There was some distance away from the arbor, but still just about close enough that one could get a general idea of what was going on. It might just barely be possible to hide the fact that Badler and Lambda Delta were missing, convincingly pretend to be engaged in a white-hot argument in gridlock. But absolutely nothing was safe at this distance. If it were possible, they'd rather have kept Erika waiting much further away. They'd planned to set up a seat of honor for their guest at one of the far corners of the garden maze.
何か問題でも？
わかったわかった。そう怖い顔をするでない。ならここでしばらく待つがよい。秘密会議であるからな。
Can anybody do like a perfect impression of Badler in Lambda Delta?
そのだな。この線よりこちらに来てはならぬぞ。
Oh, Beto. Beto drew a line in the ground with her foot.
わらわの顔も立てよ。そなたがこれだけ寛大な配慮をしてくれたことはわらわにとって何よりの武器となるのだ。
椅子もらえます？
わかったわかった。シエスタ隊よ。すぐにエリカ殿にお椅子と傘を。手ぬぐいもな。わらわが自ら拭いてピカピカにしてから差し上げようぞ。
お嬢様、守備はいかがでございましたか？
なはははは。今年の主演女優賞はわらわで決まりだぞ。
What if she said that too loud and Erika's like, what?
僕たちにできることは激論を交わし紛糾し、ことがこじれれば面倒なことになると演出することだけだ。
これもまたバトラたちを援護する戦いである。皆気を引き締めよ。本気で激論し罵倒せよ。よいな。
はい、親方様。
The sight of Goda, his cheek red and swollen from being pinched, made everyone snort, but they quickly covered their mouths and put fingers to their lips. Then everyone nodded at each other, and the fake argument resumed. Erika was sitting in a chair that the Chiester sisters had brought her, filling a goat in on the details of the negotiation. The goat would probably return and tell the rest of the fleet. The fleet would tell Bernkastel, and Bernkastel might think of some plan to deal with the situation, or give new orders. The conversation with the goat ended, and it spun around. It would return to the dinghy and report on this to the fleet. It left the rose bushes behind and passed through the garden maze, heading towards the door that led outside. What if it looked over because it's so tall, and it just sees that, like, oh, Badler and Lambda Delta aren't even there? Would it really be okay to let that goat reach the boats? If it made it back, Erika's report would reach Bernkastel's ears. The Chiester sisters spoke through a secret channel that only they could use. Oh, assassination? Oh shit. Oh, that's ballsy.
暗殺は実行可能です。
ベアトリーチェ卿暗殺許可をやれます。エリカに気取らせません。
許可しない。軍師が制限時間を切らずに船を出ると思うか。連絡がなくば決められた時間の後に攻撃を開始せよと命じ、そのヤギを見逃せ。
WO 了解。
The goat passed through the door. Then, after receiving a silent bow from Shannon and Cannon, it got on the dinghy and returned to the fleet. The fleet would probably follow Erika's orders and stand by until an attack order was given. That gave the residents of the Golden Land a chance to assassinate Erika. But of course, that wasn't going to be possible, practically speaking. She was Bernkastel's greatest underling and a witch who controlled the truth. Tricking her was all they could hope for. Anything else would be wishful thinking.
あんたたちも座ったらどうです？我らのことはお構いなくであります。
Without any hint, she had just been talking about assassinations. 00 stood upright with her hands clasped behind her back. Surrender or resist until the end. The false argument resumed. Just how well and how long would they be able to trick Erika? Yes, the final fight for the Golden Land had already begun.
バトル、ここは我らに任せよ。そなたはエンジェと最後のゲームを取り返すのだ。
Alright, well, we certainly got some interesting new information here. It still has left me confused. That whole thing with the Hachijo Ikuko and Hachijo Toya, where you learn that apparently, I don't know in what world, if it's a different fragment, if it's in like the actual real, quote-unquote, real timeline of, like, you know, Hachijo finding, or Ikiko finding somebody who seems to be Badler. Given the kind of, like, hints, I really want to believe somehow this is Badler who survived the Rokenjima explosion and washed up on shore, and, you know, Ikiko found him and made him into Hachijo Toya, but it also could be Ange. It's tough to say. Maybe it's super obvious, but I'm like, it's one of those two, or maybe it's someone completely different. Who knows? Thankfully, we did have Ange being revived or being brought to the Golden Land, and finally realizing what Badler was trying to do with her. She's realized that the truth doesn't mean anything, and she's on their side now. So Ange and Badler are off to the City of Books to take on Bernkastel, while Beato and the others are trying to hold down the fort and keep Bernkastel from attacking them. It is revving up to be an exciting conclusion, climax, final battle. Can't wait to see how it goes. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you next week for part 97. Until then, bye guys. Special shoutouts to my top tier patrons: Kiori Makoto, SM, Revealing Storm, Tequila Mockingbird, Asborn Kennedy, Harry Gazif, iCognito, Jared Fan, Joel Ustman, and Zoran Ether.